The champ is back. We're going to talk about Gulfstream Park's championship meet and Holy Bull Day on Saturday, February the 3rd. We're going to see the return of the 2-year-old champion, Fierceness, who will be your heavy favorite in race number 12 on Saturday. That's going to be the Holy Bull. Joining me, like always, especially when it's something to talk about Gulfstream Park, it has to be my good friend, Barry Spears, the sniper. Barry, how are things going on your end, buddy?
Hanging in there as good as can be, and I'm ready for the stakes action on Saturday at Gulfstream. It looks like some really good races, the stake races. The latter half of the card looks really, really good, and I can't wait.
How crazy is it? Gulfstream has a card last week where they have 7 graded stakes races. It's like a huge card. This week, right back at it. Another all stakes pick 5 to close things out. Usually tracks will have a week or two in between, but no, this is the part of the year where it's why they call it the championship meet. There's just incredible racing from the middle part of December all the way through April.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, it's such a great thing. I like it a lot. Some people have kind of been down on it in the years only because we haven't had the star power. But man, these races are always competitive. There's always some lucrative races going on, and
Big field too.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's always fun. And even when people try to predict that it's going to be a down year or whatever, it comes back just as strong. So it's always a fun time.
And remember, if you need any help handicapping the races, drf.com has everything you need. The shop.drf.com store has Gulfstream Park past performances, DRF picks for every day, and clocker reports every racing day for Gulfstream and for Santa Anita. So all the help you need getting ready for the big races as we get you ready for another big racing day at Gulfstream Park. They have one of the 4 Kentucky Derby prep races this weekend. So not only is it a big day at Gulfstream, it's a big day at Aqueduct. They have 2 stakes races and the Withers. Matt DeSantis joined me to talk about that one at Oaklawn Park, the Southwest, and 4 stakes races there total. They have an all stakes pick 4. Angela Herman joined me to talk about that day. And then at Santa Anita, they have the Bob Lewis, and they have 4 stakes races there also. But I'm going to just talk about that one myself because I think the weather is going to be off and some of those grass races might not stay on. So I figured I'll just talk about those ones in case we have some audibles. But Barry, we have a really fun mixture of, I think to me, what is the best representative of a good day at the track. Some contentious races as well as a star. And that's what we have on Saturday in the races we're going to look at Gulfstream Park. Races 8 through 11. We can probably try to find some more prices there. We can try to beat some favorites here and there. I'm not sure how you feel. At least on paper in race 12, Fierceness will be really tough. And it's great to see the 2-year-old champ starting his year off and a horse who we all hope to see in the Kentucky Derby in a few months.
Yeah, I'm waiting to see what he looks like on the track on Saturday and how he runs. I mean, it's not the most competitive field there is, but we've seen it before where horses coming off a layoff. The last race was in the Breeders' Cup, and they end up losing first time out.
Or the horses
So
that don't progress, right?
right,
How about the precocious ones who just are really good at 2, really ahead of everyone else, and they just don't mature and take that next step forward?
yeah, it's like teenagers. In high
Mm-hmm.
school, you or like in 7th grade or 8th grade, you go home for the summer, and then everybody comes back, and people are just bigger than they were the
Yep.
year before, and that kind of thing. And it catches up to some horses. I mean, it's guaranteed to happen every year. It's just a matter of who.
So let's take a look at the all stakes pick 5. So we'll have an all stakes pick 5 at Gulfstream, races 8 through 12. At Oaklawn, they have an all stakes pick 4, races 8 through 11. And our pick 5 here at Gulfstream Park will start with the grade 3 Sweetest Chant, going 1.16 miles on the turf course in here. So 3-year-old fillies, newly turned 3-year-old fillies. One horse that I want to start with, Barry, who I'm going to use in my pick 4s, is the 2, Madam Mischief, who
Oh yeah.
comes out the same race with Life's an Audible and Ozara last time out. But Madam Mischief just had a little more trouble in the same race with Life's Inaudible. She was fifth inside. She got bumped. She was in some traffic. She got pushed all the way back to seventh and lost positioning, was looking for room.
Gonna
And
show the replay?
yeah, let's show it. A good
Yeah,
call.
because it's really like I was gonna talk about this horse as well.
Yep.
But deep stretch is where it is, like all the trouble. I mean, the the two kind of followed Ozara, got off the rail, went back in and got into a little bit of trouble mid-stretch. But I mean, I'm not really sure where they came up with the 8-1 morning line for this one, but
Yep.
uh, I think this horse is a lot better than the morning line makes it seem.
Absolutely. So the race we're watching, she's the number one. And you can just see where she is right now. She's buried down on the inside where she has a bunch of horses in front of her and just nowhere to go. And, you're just at the mercy of the horses in front of you. And the horse that wins the race is Ozara, who's just sitting much more cozy of a trip, right? Than the one where the one's got to deal with the traffic. And here is where Madam Mischief gets right up into contention but just like nowhere to go.
Yeah, tries to kind of get out and then gets blocked. There's a wall of horses, 4 horses in front of her. So she goes back inside,
But she has to follow Azara.
and right here is where they get into trouble.
Yep,
And
she's not a
little
stumbles
bobble.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, she stumbles right there, and you could see she lost her gait for a little bit. She should have been at least second in this race,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Without that trouble, she's definitely second. And maybe could have went after the leader. I mean,
Honestly,
it
yeah, and
it might have been close.
speculating, but you're absolutely right. She could have been in a spot, and you don't know in racing when you got the momentum and you hit a hole and how much faster you're going. But she just had to stop and start back up, and at least she would have been second in that spot. And now she should be able to save ground again. I think just from a different style of jockey, right? Paco, who's super capable and wins a ton of races. But for me, at least, when I think of the types of horses I want Paco on, they're more speed horses,
Hmm.
right? More aggressive horses that I want him to get aggressive on. Whereas a horse like this, I think is probably a better fit for Alvarado.
Yeah, yeah. That's definitely fair to say. I mean, in this race, the 2 horses that are favorites in the morning line, Life's Inaudible and the foreign horse, Milliot, they don't look all that intimidating here. Um,
No.
and I think that's why a lot of these horses are coming back out of those races that they were in. Ozara beat both of those horses, and I think Madam Mischief is just as good as Ozara, based off what I've seen. The other horse that I kind of was looking towards is Dynamic Pricing. Um, I just think that horse is ready to improve. It's one of those Chad Brown horses that he kind of lays up and waits
Mm-hmm.
and finds this spot. He could have came back in an allowance race or a softer spot than this one, than a grade 3. But I think he feels it's time for this horse to kind of step up and do the thing after that first race at Aqueduct, which was pretty good. Um, Definitely has to improve, but has every right to improve on Saturday.
Yep. Dynamic Pricing beat a next out winner in that race on November the 4th at Aqueduct. Brown's finally got a few wins under his belt after a really slow start to the meet. And I'm sure in a couple of weeks, those numbers will probably be right back around 20%, where they normally are, and things will even out a little. I guess the pace shape might get me to throw in the 5 on a ticket if I'm playing a pick 4 or pick 5. The only that race going long on the grass was good for him. You can eliminate the debut race, the sloppy track at Monmouth Park. You just put a line right through it. Didn't like it that day, but he was able to get out front, slow things down. The horse that he beat, Creval d'Oro, came right back to beat Maiden Special Weights in the next start, earned a 72 Beyer speed figure in doing so. There was also another winner, Roscoe Village, who dropped down and beat Maiden 35s on the synthetic. So it comes down to what the outside horse with Paco is going to do. I imagine they'll probably show speed, but there's not that many speed horses in here.
No, not at all. And that makes the 5 horse really dangerous,
Mm-hmm.
because there's a situation where Paco might get hung out wide on Golden Ghost,
Yep. And if the
and not
5 just sort of holds
right.
position,
Yeah,
and
I mean, you can pretty safely say that Life's Inaudible probably won't force the issue here from the rail. And that makes that a tougher trip
especially with
anyway.
Irad. Irad's
Right.
not like that.
No, I mean, we've talked about it
Mhm.
where I think his only weakness as a jockey is riding on the lead. And he's awfully good at it despite that. Uh, but yeah, there's really not much, and Makanga could definitely get overlooked here and get to the lead easily.
Mhm.
So that makes that horse extra dangerous.
I'd say of the short prices, I'd probably give. They do look kind of similar in that they both are making their first start. I guess I would probably give Life's an Audible a little more of a look because she drew the wide post last time out and she was making her first start since the Breeders' Cup. But they don't look both of the favorites here don't at all look like they're head and shoulders above the rest of this field.
Right. This field is evenly matched all the way through. I mean, everybody kind of looks sort of similar. They've been running similar speed figures, and it kind of turns it into a rider's race.
Yeah, and
So it's going to be.
if the board isn't telling us what we think we see, we're gonna look for those horses that are inflated, that are
Yeah,
bigger prices than we think that they might be, because it just shouldn't be 5-2 and 2-1 and then
everybody else. It's
everybody
just like,
else.
yeah.
No, it should be a little more evenly matched than that. So we both wanted to point out Madam Mischief as a must-use horse in your exotics here, coming off a better than looks effort on that January 6th race. There's race number 8, the grade 3 Sweetest Chant. Let's move to the Swale. 7 furlongs for 3-year-olds. It is ungraded, but it's a $125,000 stakes race. We do know that the 1, Ben Tornado, is out. I believe they're going to go to the Saudi Cup with this one, who got the invitation. So scratch of a major player that will take out some rail speed in here. Also, still a fun race to dive into. Colorado Cruiser comes out of a race from Santa Anita where he beat Urban Legend, who's a highly regarded Baffert horse. He lost to Nisos and Coach Prime, who are other Baffert horses who are both going to be running in the Bob Lewis this week. You have Bilal, whose maiden win was pretty good. Then they tried Stakes Company a few times after that. Risk It seems to have some legitimate ability. I think his form is a little better than his last couple, and now he gets back to a sprint. He's tried to go a little bit longer. This could help him. Legalize is coming off 2 really nice wins, a stakes winner there at Fairgrounds. There are some talented 3-year-olds in here, and they look like this is a good spot for them because probably don't want to go farther. They're not quite up at the top prep level, but there's some real solid stakes horses in here.
Yeah, yeah. This is another race that was hard to scrutinize because everybody's kind of doing the same thing, and it even adds more intrigue if Ben Tornado does not run because that kind of opens things up a little bit, and I don't think anybody's going to let Legalize get away with anything easy, and that can create chaos in this sort of race because these are younger horses. The paces usually tend to heat up despite the distance, and there's some opportunities here. Like the first horse that I kind of zeroed in on is number 5, Bilal. Um, those races that the Nashua and the Remsen, the 2 stake races were just over his ability to run, like too far. 7 furlongs is probably this horse's sweet spot. The cutback is key.
He's
I
going to
think
have some
that
more punch now,
right,
too.
and the versatility this horse has can really be up close. And I don't think this horse will shy away if he gets dirt kicked in his face either. And that's a good quality to have in a race like this because like I said, these younger horses, I know they're 3-year-olds now, but they weren't a couple weeks ago, and they tend to get worked up and go fast, just because they haven't learned how to race yet. And having that versatility, a horse that can rate just a little bit, is a big advantage.
I think you just eliminate that last race completely. It was on an off track. And then in his
Yeah.
debut, he's behind Fierceness on a muddy track.
Right.
And
And comes out of that race, runs pretty big, at Aqueduct.
that horse that he beat too at Aqueduct, this race came back strong. He beat 3 next out winners, and the 3rd place finisher Speedrunner, he's 5-1 in the Withers from the rail. He's a player in there.
Absolutely.
So it he to me is a must use pick 4, pick 5 horse in this race. I think you have to have him on your tickets all over the place. He everything about his form makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely. And the price will probably be right because I would think they're really going to try to bet down Legalize. But another horse, and I'm going to throw this one downfield that kind of looks interesting to me, and the horse probably won't be the price that I would want, but it's still going to be good. Is number 8 Squints. Um, that race, I don't know why this horse isn't thought of more highly in this race. Um, I mean, really kind of coming out of the same sort of company that the one who was 9 to 5 on the morning line was coming out of. State bred races, gets Jose Ortiz, which is interesting. And the horse has been training up a storm. It wouldn't surprise me if this horse runs very, very well on Saturday. I mean, it just seems like this horse is coming up to the top effort. You can see those workouts.
When he
November
can
3rd,
pass horses, which is a
right?
major positive in here because
Huge positive.
you look at there's at least a version of this race where Colorado Cruiser's going, Les Dombros going. The 4 doesn't want to be too far out of it. We have Legalize, who we've mentioned, and you have to the those 4, 5 horses that are all combined could all be pushing it a little bit here. Squints Palidorus from from the
Sandlot.
Sandlot is chilling with Wendy Peppercorn, and they're gonna have a nice day here. Squints is 20-1 on the morning line, and Breen's been having a fantastic meet.
Yeah, that's why I
The
don't think that price is going to hold. I'd say probably half that, if
horse
not even
who
lower.
I'm going to treat as a wild card, I I just wish there was a more recent race. It's the 4, Grand Mo
Yeah.
the first. His form overall is good. Those synthetic races were solid, and the turf race at Santa Anita was very good against a horse named Endlessly. We just don't know how he will perform on the dirt, but he's training on the dirt fine. And actually, 7 furlongs feels like it should be a perfect distance for him.
Mhm.
I I'm going to use him in probably a pick 4 or pick 5 because his value will represent some of my concerns. I just wouldn't be shocked to see him run well and maybe a little short,
Yeah,
just
no,
off a
that,
few
that
months, something
that's
like that.
fair. And I think, the eight's going to take some more money than expected, and the price on the 4 might go up, and that might be
Hmm.
the sweet spot. You know what I mean? As far
Yeah.
as value goes, that one might be the sweet spot because like you said, it's kind of a wild card, but you can't take a too short of a price on a horse like this, because there is that possibility, like you said, that this one might need this race. Especially trying the dirt for the first time. But yeah, definitely a contender here. I mean, the numbers kind of fit in line, with an improving horse. So, I mean, this is a tough race too. Like these
Yeah.
first two are very, very difficult.
Yeah. I started to point out Risk It a little bit too. He's
Yeah,
another that you look at and
huge
dirt
chance here.
sprint makes sense. They win a mile in the Iroquois. They finish second that day. The horse who was third, Liberal Art, he's my pick in the Southwest. I think he's going to get a really nice setup in that race with some speed. He's a real quality horse who just has gotten better as the distances have got longer. And you just look at Risk It most recently, runs into Honor Marie and then runs into Track Phantom. And those 2 horses are both coming back, I believe, in the Risen Star.
Hmm.
No, and you can just see he's forwardly placed, he's in the race, and then he doesn't have any punch or any late run. It's just too far for him. Now you get the big cutback to 7 furlongs, third start of the form cycle. He's in the mix here. It I think
You
this
know,
I'm
he,
with you
he
too. Go ahead.
I was gonna say he kind of runs like a turf horse on the dirt.
He does. Yeah.
If you see turf horses run on the dirt, a lot of them do have a little bit of that explosive kick, but then it fizzles out really fast.
Like a
And that's
cruising speed almost.
yes, yep. They'll loom up and then kind of flatten out, and that's what this horse was doing. Even back in September, that's really how that horse kind of lost. He loomed up really good, and if you didn't know any better, you thought this horse was going to run down West Saratoga.
Hmm.
Um, but runs a lot like a turf horse on the dirt. So that one kind of is a lower level contender, but has every right to win. I mean, the horse they bought him for 500,000. Um, the horse runs well, so we'll see. The cutback might be the difference.
There's a look at the Swale. This one's going to go as race number 9 on Saturday at Gulfstream Park. Let's move to the Forward Gal, race number 10, grade 3 event for 3-year-old fillies. This one, Barry, we don't necessarily have any of the major 3-year-old fillies so far. Horses coming out of the top juvenile runners. Scalable was in the juvenile though, and she
Yes.
dropped out of the Breeders' Cup, and she crushed here at Gulfstream, breaking her maiden, sitting off the pace nicely. And it's not as if her prior races were that bad. It.
No, they're competitive and not running, outstanding numbers. Um, this
I
is
just
another
think,
one.
but
Yeah.
and I don't really have any knocks on her, but I just think that it's a competitive race. I don't
Yes.
think she should be 9 to 5, and the 2, 4, 5, 7 should be that much difference than she is. I think all of them are in sort of a similar quality, and based on the way this race shapes up, I think any of those horses could win.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this is another one, another evenly matched race where it kind of ends up being a rider's race.
Mm-hmm.
Harper Rose should take some action too. Scalable's definitely going to get some play because of the connections. Uh, Nikitas might take a little bit of action for, obviously the top rider IRAD is there and they'll attract attention. So, I think that everybody's going to be close to the same price. Kiss by an Angel is probably going to come down a bit off of that 12-1. And then, everybody else, it seems like they're all going to be around the same price. And this is what you love as a better, because you can find a horse that probably is not a standout, but can outmatch these horses. And I think the 7, Whitwater's, I don't know. I don't even know how to say that. Whitwater's Rand.
That's what I was, and I kept. I wish somebody had a video of me doing this last night. What you're doing right now, it was like someone would have asked me if I needed help with something. I'm trying to sound it out, and I'm with water R's and with
Right, because at
you know
first
what I'm
it's like
saying?
Whitwater Sand,
I
but
know,
there's
but
another R in there, and you're like, "Oh
with
man, how do you
waters
say this?"
are Strand. I'm like
Whitwater's Rand.
and it's so funny when you do this, because what happens a lot of the time for me is I've started realizing this a lot more recently is I watch a lot of most replays I'm watching on volumes off.
Right.
I'm
Yep.
just not listening when I'm watching it. I'm going through so many, and I'll write down all of the notes of the race, what happened, and sometimes I won't even write down or hear the way that the horse was said. And then I come to sit down and do a show like this, and I'm like, oh crap, what was the name? You know what I'm saying? But with this
Yeah.
one, I was trying, and I listened to Robert. It just, I still can't. I still struggle with it, but
Yeah, that's a tough one. Good luck, Pete, on
yeah,
on
I know.
Saturday with this one, especially if the horse wins. Um, but this horse is coming in the right direction. And one thing I noticed about this race is a lot of these horses are coming in off like regressions. You usually don't see that a lot.
That's a good point.
Um, and it's hard to scrutinize. I mean, look at R. Harper Rose. The horse ran 2 decent buyer numbers, then
But
go in
then
the restricted
regressed
company
badly.
and didn't run as fast. And,
Yeah.
and there's really no rhyme or reason. The horse still won one of those races and,
Hmm.
and is 3 for 4 lifetime with a second. I mean, I get it, but it's like, what are we gonna get here? And
Even the
and that's
two,
what
Fiona's Magic was visually impressive in
right.
that December 7th race. She dealt with some pressure. She put that horse away. She drew off. She won by 2.5 lengths. She got more distance that day, but in speed figures, she went backwards.
Yeah, I think that last race is a lot better than that
Me too.
number.
Me too.
And I think this horse is a lot faster than R. Harper Rose.
I think so too.
If that one can get out in front and beat, our Harper Rose to the punch, I think this horse is going to be tough. And then, the other one I do like is the W horse on the outside. I'm not even
Yep.
going to attempt.
We see this similar because I think Fiona's Magic is the fastest. I do. And all three of her races have been good. She lost to a nice horse in her debut. She was off from July to November. She showed back up. It's been good in both of those starts. Now she'll go third start off the bench. She's had that really nice progression from 5 to 6 to 6.5. Now she gets to go to 7. And our Harper Rose, she's faced Florida breds in her last couple. Even when she was in open company, she actually beat another Florida bred that day, Star of Saturn, who's a good one. But I think this is a little tough for her, and these horses might be a little faster, just a little more quality than her overall. I would not be shocked to see her run well in here, but I'm going to use a couple others. You pointed out the 2, the 8, absolutely, or the 2 and the 7 were both in the mix for me, and the 5,
Yeah.
257, Nikitas, who we've seen her progress. Same thing you said, though. Her races show progression when you watch them visually, but the speed figures, she didn't show any improvement at all in them.
Yeah, this is so weird.
It
And
is.
then scalable, this isn't a reliable favorite. I mean, the race that horse comes out of didn't look all that impressive, and the field wasn't much.
No, I mean,
It
Curl
was
and
just
Twirl is
basically a maiden breaker,
the same
and
horse that Nikitas beat.
right, and obviously isn't at this level. So this is an interesting race too. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if pretty much any of them win except for the 3, and even that one isn't impossible.
Yeah, the 2 back race isn't bad. I just think she does seem a little cut below overall the quality of some of these horses, but she's not in a bad spot from 7 furlongs on the dirt right here. She could fall into a nice trip here.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a challenging race. It really is. Barry and I both like the Deuce, Fiona's Magic quite a bit, and the 7 as must-use horses. We'll just say, and the 7 there. Whitwater's ran. Let's go to race number 11 next, my friend. We have the Kitten's Joy. This one is a 1.16 on the turf for 3-year-old boys. And noted to the outside is the horse who is your 8-5 favorite on the morning line. He hasn't done a whole lot wrong in his career, and he's honest. He kind of fits the same profile that you were saying of some of the last horses, though, right? If you look at his recent grass races, they're the Bourbon and then the Pulpit back.
Yeah.
They're not overwhelming to where he's a standout over the rest of this field.
Yeah, and the 8 hole or the 9 spot might be a real big disadvantage. I mean, they can drop back to last, which probably will happen, but that's not always conducive. I
No.
mean, they're kind of lucky that this isn't a bigger field. But Takayo, kind of dominated last time in the Dania Beach, and really was never challenged. And that
honestly,
situation might happen again.
There's not that much speed in here again. I know.
Exactly. That situation might happen again. You're getting the guy that does this sort of thing, Luis Saez, on him. I mean, why not go to that again? Because the 2 Pletchers are going to take money.
So based on how you're handicapping this race, that leads me to the horse that I like and I think is going to run really well in here. That's First World War, the 6. Now, his first 2 races were on the grass. His last 2 were on the dirt. His dirt race, he lost to Otello, who we're going to see in just a minute, in the Mucho Macho Man. He lost to a horse named Parchment Party 2 starts back. That's a nice Bill Mott horse who they've actually said they're going to, I think is getting 60 days right now and is going to come back soon. They're letting the horse grow up a little bit. The race that really intrigued me was the Bourbon, where he's actually favored in this race against Noted. And he's the 12 in here. He drew post 12 and just watch going into the turn how wide this horse has to be. And this is a horse who ends up only beaten a length and a half in this race. I was really impressed. You can see right here, he tries. He looks over and he's going to try to get in. But what happens, like the 9 sort of comes back up in front and pushes him back out to the 4 path. He was trying not to get out there, and he still had to get sort of out there. And he can't get in the whole race. All the way around, this is where the 12 has to sit. 4 deep on the grass.
That's tough.
He gets up to about the 3 position, but this is a kind of a race that you can win with this trip on the dirt, Barry. You almost never win with a trip like this on the grass.
Yeah,
it just doesn't work.
It's tough. So you get hung out wide the whole way. Saving ground is the key on the turf, and giving yourself outs. But you see in the stretch here, this horse is right there. He's right
trying.
there.
He's in between, and he's still trying. But that wide trip is just catching up with him right now.
Like if you said to somebody, the post position really hurt my horse, this should be the race you should show.
Yeah,
because it's very clear that being on the outside cost this horse a win, or
he didn't have any other options.
Finish, right?
Yeah, he had no choice but to be sitting out there. You don't want to run all the way up to the lead and go so fast that you burn yourself out, but you don't want to be wide and take all the way back. He was just forced to sit in that spot. I thought he ran really well. I wouldn't be shocked if they try to get aggressive with him here.
Yeah,
either.
I hope they do, because the horse I like probably is not going to be on the lead, and that's Edgartown.
Nice.
With Oisin Murphy. This horse fits that description of a horse that's on the improve that I always talk about. You see that the horse ran on November 4th in a maiden, wins at Churchill on the turf, laid off, comes back January 6th, runs an improved buyer number. Usually that means there's another jump up in improvement in this horse's speed. And I think this horse is going to sit a pretty good trip behind Takayo.
And we're talking about how there isn't that much speed in this race. The 2 horses that I thought could benefit most were the 2 Edgartown and the 6 First World War, just from, can they be sitting in the top 3?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Noda is not going to be around. Like I despite the pace, I still think that horse is probably going to be last for most of this race, and you're going to see this horse running like a freight train in the stretch. But
Agate Road isn't quick early.
No, not at all. So being 4-wheelie place is definitely a positive here. But again, this is another race that doesn't look as simple as the favorite.
Not at all.
I mean, there's some knocks there with running style, and the pace and the race shape doesn't quite favor either of the Pletcher horses here.
Let's look at the Grade 3 Kitten's Joy, race 11 on Saturday at Gulfstream Park. We turn the page to race number 12. It's the Grade 3 Holy Bull. And Barry, we have Fierceness, 3-5 on the morning line. And on paper, he really does tower over this field. Just based on what these horses have done so far. He had his one poor race when he couldn't get close to the lead. But as we've mentioned, he has such a small body of work that it's still so hard to say a horse like this can't be beat. You can't. It's hard on paper to get there for me with some of the horses in this race. Yeah. There was one horse that I like. And No More Time, I thought might have been intriguing. He's not going to run in this race. It looks like No More Time is going to run, I believe, next week the Sam F. Davis, I think, at Tampa. The horse who is on my radar a little bit is the 2.
Yes.
Inveigled. So if we're playing him before the Mucho Macho Man, he has excellent improving form. Like big win, beating a neck at Laurel. Then he shows us he can sit off the pace a little bit at Gulfstream. That December 9th race was a really nice win.
Tough. Yeah.
It was a good effort. And then here comes the Mucho Macho Man. We can show the race because you have 4 horses coming out of this race that'll be running on Saturday. I guess No More Time won't, so 3 of them. And the one that we're going to watch is the number 6. That's Inveigled. He had a kind of a weird trip, and The more I watched this replay back in handicapping this race, I actually ended up using Inveigled in like I did a coast to coast pick 5 for DRF this week. I was filling in and I had to put the ticket in, and I actually used Inveigled and Fierceness in this race. If you're watching the replay with Barry and me right now, Inveigled's in the second flight. He's sitting in a pretty good spot. You know, he's 3 lengths off, but he does get surrounded on all sides, and he's in between horses. So he can't move to the inside and he can't move to the outside. And right now, he's moving up into contention. He can't really go forward. So at this point, Barry, he just has to stop.
Right. You can see it
And
visually. Like the horse
he,
had to check, not check, but
just the rider just has to completely loosen up on him. Watch as the 1 goes up the inside, he backs up and then tries to go to the outside of the 1. And the horse who wins this race is the 3, Othello. Look at the difference between what they just had to do. He had to back up, inveigled, and go outside. Othello stayed inside, waited, and he was able to move in between. And you'll see Inveigled, who backs all the way up, but now watch him finishing on the outside again after having to shift, alter course. He could have won that race.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, with a better trip, you know, I always say whenever I'm watching races, I was like, as long as you're not between horses,
Right?
you're good. It's being between horses is like the kiss of death. It's hard to, you know, to get horses in front from those positions, especially on the turn. That being said, I really think that Fierceness is a standout here. It's going to be tough to beat that horse. I mean, his 2 races, you throw out the Aqueduct race, just blow any of these horses away. I thought Domestic Product might be one to go back to, getting the blinkers off. And
I'm
Inveigled was the other horse that I thought could have a chance also.
And those are the exact 2 that I had on my radar if you were going to use other horses in here. I'm a little bit worried with Domestic Product because I don't know how quick he is early.
That's okay, because you know that surface at Aqueduct is super deep.
Tiring. Yeah.
Yeah, and
you should be fit enough.
Yeah, I mean the Aqueduct off angle, we'll get a good look at it in this race if Domestic Product runs well.
Fierceness, no doubt the horse to beat, and we say this as you and I liked Fierceness in the Breeders' Cup.
Oh yeah, yeah.
We played him.
I mean, I scored pretty big on that horse because the other one I liked, the Wine Steward, scratched.
We both, we both were on the Wine Steward too. Same exact thing. And it was, for me in that particular race, it was almost process of elimination too. I didn't love a lot of the other horses in the race at the time, and Fierceness. Everybody
the fastest race. That's how I figured him.
Yeah, he was the
fastest faster race,
and everybody just completely jumped off of him off the one sloppy track bad race.
Yep, and I was like, he can come back and win this. You know, I said it. I think we did the preview with you, and I said the same thing. You know, I think this horse is a lot better than that one race on the slop. And sure enough, I mean, if ever you wanted a 16-1 shot to win, that's how you do it.
And I was even a little surprised at how he sat nicely in the Breeders' Cup. I would have thought, yeah, he can win, but it'll probably be really quick, and he runs away with it. He sat patiently, didn't get caught up in a battle, waited, and made a move to the lead and just opened up.
Took off. Yeah, he probably could have won by more than that.
Absolutely.
That margin, because Irad kind of eased up on him. I mean, Johnny V.
Yep.
Yeah, man, it's going to be hard. I would say 3 to 5 is probably what that horse is going to go off, if not lower, unfortunately.
He's just really tough to beat in here. He really is. This race, the Nisos race too at Santa Anita, I had a really hard time trying to get past those particular horses. And you know what we do here on the No Chalk Zone. That's the goal. But Fierceness, he's going to be very, very tough at 3 to 5 this week in the Holy Bull on Saturday. Barry, my friend, we have 15 stakes races between the 4 tracks that have prep races this weekend. It's not Pegasus World Cup anymore, but it is Gulfstream Park Championship meet. Pegasus was last week. PPs, DRF picks, clocker reports, every racing day, shop.drf.com. Before we get out of here, Barry, talk to us a little bit about Going in Circles, Big Monday. You guys were talking a lot about social media recently, and there were some influencers out at the Pegasus, and could horse racing find a way to have some of these influencers hit the horse racing public for more than just the big day? Or is there some way we can, use people who have a great following and that enjoy the racetrack and promote the races? It was a really good conversation, and you had Mike on, right? From
Mike Manansky, the Mutt Man. That's what we call him, the Mutt. Yeah, he was on, and the thing about the influencers is there's really no downside to it, because you're getting eyes that you normally would not get on the sport, good, bad, or otherwise. And I think racing in general, the industry does not leverage the social media that well. As that continues to grow and improve, they can leverage it a lot better, I think, and even have horse racing influencers and invite those people to help people bet and do stuff like that. So there's potential there. It's just got to be tapped.
Barry Spears. You can find him on Big Mondays on that Going in Circles podcast with Chuck Simon each and every week, talking about important issues in horse racing, some handicapping here and there, different guests in the mix. And you can always find
We're going
Barry.
to try to get Gino on there.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Anytime.
we're gonna get you on.
We'll talk some racing. We'll talk some basketball.
Hoops.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're right now, especially, it's kind of that unofficial, the sports calendar where, now everyone's focusing on football. When football ends, then with, Super Bowl next week, then we get March Madness for that month or so. And then all the eyes will kind of shift on over to the NBA for the last part of the season and on into the playoffs. So we'll be talking all about that soon, my friend. We'll always have big races to talk right here. I'm lucky to have a good friend like Barry who joins me each and every week and helps us handicap whatever big races are around the country. Remember, folks, shop.drf.com for all of your handicapping needs, DRF bets for your wagering needs. Good luck at Gulfstream Park on a very, very big Saturday. 5 stakes races close out the card.